Hey, Midshipman, how you doing? Good to meet you virtually anyway, that is. My name's Ryan Aldrich. I'm a pilot over at VFA 106, which is the training command. We teach new students how to fly the F-18. So I will give you an airspace brief right now, but I'll preface all of this with saying um, the importance of flexibility and adaptability in your program is incredibly important because we need to be able to adjust some of the constraints as situations develop or things change with naval aviation or with our jet status or weather or whatever. So I will say that while I'm going to give you some guidelines on what events can go to what areas, I would suggest that overall you use this brief as a way to broaden your knowledge of how events work with the airspace. But I would suggest that you create some sort of matrix, a yes/no columns, if you will, or ones or zeros, that will allow the program to be easily and rapidly changed depending on the needs of our squadron. So, for example, there'll be some events that we would prefer not to do in certain airspaces, but based on what previous bad weather, based on student performance, based on um, a myriad of different factors, we may choose to allow this event to complete, to go out to an area that is less than desirable. And we need to be able to adjust that as the airspace changes by ATC or weather pops up or something like that. So I'm going to share a screen with you. This is going to be a broad overview of the airspace. Okay, so you should see basically the southern part of Florida. This is an aviation map. Don't worry about all the different symbology on it. Just worry about, hey, this is Florida. We've got, hang on one second. We got Florida right here. We've got the Florida Keys along this line. And then we've got some airspace over here on the to the west, to the south, and to the southeast. So I'll draw that airspace right now. I'll zoom in one more, I think. Not too far. Okay. So we've got airspace here. And, this is not going to be perfect. That gives you the idea. Got airspace here and airspace here. And if you were to listen exactly to how air traffic control calls this airspace, they would call this airspace over here 174 Foxtrot and 174 Alpha and 174 Bravo. And if they wanted to give us the entirety of this airspace, it'd be a long, long litany of different Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, all of that stuff. Down here is 174 Charlie, and over here is 465 Alpha, Bravo, and Delta. All right, that's somewhat challenging to say over the radio. So that's just really the formal verbiage of that airspace. When we take off out of Key West, if you were not familiar with the airspace, they might give it to you in that format. But we'll call it something different. We'll call this entirety of airspace, we'll call that lightning. We'll call this down here, the small one, we'll call this one Phantom, and this one over here, Viper. All right. Now this is huge. So if you were to draw a line or measure the distance from east to west, something like 180 miles, and north to south, like 100 miles. So it's very sizable. And most all of our events, except for a couple, don't require the entirety of that airspace. So we can subdivide that airspace, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Some of the airspace that we don't subdivide is going to be Phantom and Viper. Those are just Phantom and Viper. They are always Phantom and Viper. They don't change from Phantom and Viper at all. So let me pull up a PowerPoint and share that with you. Oops, hang on. Okay. So we've got lightning, as we already discussed. You should be able to see Key West down here. Ignore these yellow points in the text boxes. Those are entrance and exit points for aircraft, and it just makes it easier for air traffic control to filter people coming and going, as well as the frequencies. Ignore that. All right, so that's the entirety of the airspace. We'll call that lightning. And we can divide that through drawing an east-west line in the middle into a north and south area. We'll call that sundowner north, or usually we'll call it just sun north, or sundowner south, just sun south. So sun north and sun south is what we call those two areas. And then we can, we won't further subdivide it, but an alternative way of subdividing it would be to draw 3 east-wester lines, splitting the area into 3 sections, north-south. So north will be Rhino. Rhino's the farthest away from Key West. All right. We've got Hornet in the middle and Tiger. And we would say that we're taking off from right here where my pointer is. We would say that Rhino and Rhino's the farthest away, and then Hornet and Tiger are the closest. Excuse me. Down here you can see the outline of Phantom. And right off the bat, no matter what, Phantom is only used, here's a closer view. Phantom is only used for BFM, which is like dogfighting. We don't use it for any fighter weapons events, FWT events. We only use it for FBFM events. So FBFM stands for flight, basic flight maneuvers. FWT stands for flight, fighter weapons tactics. All right, so BFM is you are close proximity. You don't need a lot of space to accomplish that mission. But anyway, here's Phantom. It's very, very close to Key West. We can do BFM anywhere. We could do BFM in Lightning, but realize that if we take the entirety of Lightning to do an event of BFM, it's not the best use of that airspace. Phantom's a great use because, 1, it's the only airspace you can do BFM in, and 2, it's so close to Key West. Okay, I digress. Here's Viper, just to the south, or east, southeast of Key West. Okay, and so again, this is a closer in view of Viper. We will not subdivide this at all. Any questions so far? Let me step back. We can divide this. We can send an event to Tiger, an event to Hornet, an event to Rhino. However, sometimes we subdivide it as we'll give one event Rhino, and we'll give another event both Hornet and Tiger. We'll talk about that here in a second. Okay, so far we've talked about where the airspace is, what air traffic control calls it, and what the Navy will call it. And then finally we talked about how we can subdivide those airspaces and what the Navy calls each of those subdivisions. So what we'll talk about next is going to be which events can go to what airspace. And again, I would like to point out that this is a generalization, and it's not the rule. It's also, we need to be flexible, so please allow us the opportunity to schedule events in different areas. And if possible, give us a weighted average, or a weight, give each of these a weight. So I'll talk to some of the ones that can be done in different airspaces here in a second, and how that weight could be useful. So over here we've got a spreadsheet. You may already have this. I sent it to Captain Foraker a while ago. I will resend it though when I get to work. So on the left, we've got the events. So these are all fighter weapons events. These are all Cat 1 events, because you can see that the number starts with a 1. Okay, so typically we try and have fighter weapons events 101 through 105 complete by the time they get to Key West But we always need the ability to do these in Key West also. All right, so these are also typically done with 2 sections of F-18s. So a section, remember, are 2 aircraft, and so 2 sections would be a total of 4 aircraft. So these are done as a section versus a section. We can also do it with non-F-18s. So we could do a section of F-18s versus a section of F-5s. But we've got the gas to do it in-house, is what we'd call that way. And it works just a little bit better, maybe smoother that way. These can use any available area other than Phantom. So remember, Phantom, you can never do fighter weapons events in Phantom. No way. Can't do it. Okay. So fighter weapons 101, 1 F-18 versus 2 Red Air, can be done in Lightning. But remember, it could also be done in Viper. It could also be done in Rhino. So it wouldn't be a good utilization of the entirety of the airspace to give fighter weapons 101 the whole Lightning airspace. So you would subdivide that into Rhino or Hornet or Tiger or send them to Viper. 106 and 107 can use Rhino, Hornet, and Tiger. They can also use Viper, but this is one of those circumstances that we'd like that weighted. We'd like it to be biased to use Rhino, Hornet, or to use the Lightning airspace or a subdivision thereof. We do not want to do this in Viper if we can help it. But that being said, if students have been failing at events, if jets have been breaking, if the weather's been poor, sure, we will then degrade to using Viper, and we will accomplish the mission. So this is one where you can include a weighted or a weight to that decision if it's easy to do, or just allow us the opportunity via that matrix to then include Viper in the decision tree. Okay, but people don't like doing that. They complain every single time we schedule these events in Viper. Okay, let's talk about Fighter Ops 108. This is a self-escort strike. So what this event is that imagine you are off the coast of Vietnam, you take off from a carrier during the Vietnam War, you fly into Vietnam, you drop a bomb, and then you fly out and go back to the carrier. So I'll show you a depiction of that. Not a depiction, but I'll show you what what it could be with the airspace. So we will use for this Hornet and Tiger ideally, because you'll start in the west, you'll fly to the east, you'll simulate bombing the dry Tortugas, and we like using the dry Tortugas because everything else is just water. It's hard to bomb water accurately. It's hard to tell if you're valid when you look at your videotapes after the flight. But the dry Tortugas is actually a fort on land that is visually significant from the aircraft. So we will ingress, we'll try and bomb it, and then we'll egress and go back out to the carrier. And the reason that it needs to be, or that we like scheduling this as Hornet and Tiger, is because the dry Tortugas is right on the border between both of them. So you can schedule this as Hornet and Tiger. You can, in a pinch, also schedule it as Sun South, which is fine. You can do that. Just a little bit more challenging. Maybe, if I had to give a split, I'd say, give it, we'd like it 70%, maybe 60% Hornet and Tiger for the weight. Then maybe I'd go for 30% for Sun, maybe 20% for Sun South. And then we can also do this in Viper, maybe a 10%, 20% chance or weight there. But the caveat for that is that this event could be flown with 2 aircraft or 4 aircraft. We really, really, really like to bias to 4 aircraft for the Cat 1s. However, if Cat 1 has failed it and is behind, we're not going to put up 2 F-18s with instructors or students that have already done the event just to make this a 4-ship event. Okay. That being said, if you are in a division, you have to do this event in Hornet and Tiger, or Sun South. You cannot do a division for this event in Viper. So keep that in mind. Section only for self-escort strike, and that can be done in a pinch in Viper if required. But again, not a big deal, just something to think about. Please give us the ability to change those weighted average or those weights or that matrix. Okay, we get into Fighters 109 and 110. Those can be done in Rhino, Hornet, or Tiger. We really don't like doing them in Viper. I'd say a weight of maybe 90% towards doing it in the Lightning subdivisions. But give us the option to think about doing it in Viper as required. For fighter ups 111 and 112, we need to do those in Sun North or Sun South. Those are the only 2 airspaces that work. For fighter ups 113s, we have to do those in Lightning. That Lightning is the only one that will work for that. All right. So 1 event per airspace, i.e. fighter ups 112 can go up to Sun North. We have 4 F-18s doing that. And fighter ups 112 can go to Sun South, and we can have 4 F-18s doing that. So we'll have a total of 8 F-18s in Lightning. At the moment, or we'll have a total of 8 F-18s in the Lightning airspace using subdivisions Sun North and Sun South. But we can have other F-18s transiting to the area, getting ready to accomplish the mission or the same mission. So we could have 4 F-18s executing the mission in Sun South, and we could have 4 F-18s executing the mission in Sun North, and we could also have 4 F-18s traveling to Sun South, getting ready to execute the same mission. So while they are technically in the same airspace, since they're not executing the mission, they are on the border, they're high up, they're not involved in the mission, they're not technically using the airspace, they're just getting ready to use it, if that makes sense. Okay, back to my spreadsheet. You could probably stop watching the video now if you wanted to, only because everything is subjective based on how the students are doing, and based on the airspace. We really just want the ability to have some sort of matrix and, if possible, a weight to airspaces. And if you can provide that to us, then you don't really need to worry necessarily about what airspaces can do what events. But that being said, I'll keep on talking. BFMs, all of these BFMs, they need to be done they can be done anywhere. Phantom can only use BFMs, can only have BFMs in it, so that's a great spot to do them in. And there you go. BFM 3008, these 2 events are basically duplicates on the same spreadsheet. They're the same thing. All right. We like doing those in Phantom or Rhino because Phantom or Tiger because they're very close to Key West. Because the F5s who are going to be fighting don't have a lot of gas. We can also do this versus a F-18. So this would be 2 F-18s versus 1 F-18. If you're going to do it with F5s, though, as pointed out here, you need 2 F5s versus 2 F-18s because the F5s won't have enough gas. You only send one of them up. They'll basically stagger their launch times. All right. Fighter Ups 3001 and 3008. Those are the CAT Other events. 3001, 3002 are usually done up north at the beach in Oceania here, but can be done down south. They can be done in any area except for Phantom, and it's usually 2 F-18s versus 2 F-18s. So we'll go up there as described before, and we'll accomplish um, uh, uh, 3 runs as the blue air, and you'll only swap roles. It'll be 3 runs as the red air. For the 3003, this is done Rhino, Hornet, and Tiger. It can be done in a pinch in Viper. 3004, same discussion as previously for the self-escort strike. Same ideas already referenced, except for this event, we might change the weight a little bit to allow more flexibility towards Viper. For the 3000, because this is for the catalyst, it's only done as a section. For the 3005 and 3006, this can be done in Rhino, Hornet, or Tiger. Or obviously, it can also be done in Sun North or Sun South or Lightning, but the best use of airspace is Rhino, Hornet, Tiger. For the 3007, that is Lightning. That's the entirety of Lightning. If it's a 4V, I'm sorry, there's no if statement there. The entirety of Lightning is what is needed for that to accomplish that event. For the Fighter Ups 2008, that is a 4VX, but that can be done in Sun North or Sun South. Okay, 10-15 minute video. I don't know what that was total time. I think there's probably a lot of questions and a lot of maybe not perhaps on what we just discussed, but on how different events interact, the whole concept of double cycle of red air. This is something that I traveled up to the academy in June to talk with Captain Foraker about, and we spent the whole day discussing these different concepts. So I might suggest a video teleconference where you guys can ask me questions and we can reply to those questions, or I can reply to those questions real time, or certainly send more questions, fire them away my way. All right, have a great Monday.